Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, emergency crews in Magoffin County are trying to help some folks who lost many possessions this weekend during a fire. And the Supreme Court hears arguments in a case between a business owner and members of the LGBTQ community.
Plus, rain continues to filter into the forecast as we head through the early part of the week. Latest timing and totals coming up after this as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Several Eastern Kentucky families lost their home, 2 cars, and Christmas presents in a weekend fire. It broke out on Buck Creek Road in Magoffin County. First responders have stepped up now for the survivors. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on how rescue squad workers are helping.
People woke up to their camper on fire Saturday night. They got out, but concerns then turned to their pets and a nearby home.
My dog ran back in there, and I had to run back in after her, grabbed her, and got her out. And then I was trying to save this house by throwing buckets of water on it.
The pets were okay, but the camper was a total loss. The fire also destroyed 2 cars and every Christmas present inside.
Just get back to work and try to build it back up.
The Magoffin County Rescue Squad members want to help with that. They're asking people to drop off toys and clothes for the 9 children impacted by the fire.
Just seeing the loss that they had, you know, it really hurts. But, you know, just as a community, you know, coming together to help them out really soothes the mind, you know, that we can come together and help them.
The fire happened as this community has dealt with a lot over the last year or so. There was COVID-19. The rescue squad director, Carter Conley, passed away. There was a school bus crash, and now this fire. And I'm told that dealing with these kinds of issues is exactly why Carter Conley would have wanted to help out, and he would have been standing front and center of this effort.
Probably would be the same thing we're doing now, just trying to gather what we can, you know, and help the families best as we can how, and just help.
Welcome help after a frightening night.
Definitely scary, especially going back in the house, in the trailer for that dog. I didn't know what was going to happen.
First responders say their donation drive will help answer questions of what will happen now. In Magoffin County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Fire officials say the cause is still under investigation, but it could have been sparked by a heater.
Well, we're watching our latest weather system head in our direction as we watch the potential for showers moving into the mountains a little bit later on tonight. Before then, though, the overcast is widespread. There's a look outside from several of our locations. London Corbin Airport, they're all overcast. Same thing here in Hazard and in Pikeville. They're also rather cloudy at this hour. Temperatures all in the upper 50s, or the upper 40s to near 50, I should say. You see plenty of those numbers out there already, but already some cooler spots filtering in. Prestonsburg at 42, Jacksboro and Irvin at 43. Watching those showers continuing to push through on Pinpoint Doppler. Not a lot of this is reaching the ground, but a sprinkler or two can't be ruled out across parts of the northern part of the area into the Big Sandy as we head through the evening hours. The bulk of the rain right now to our south, but that's along a stationary boundary that's going to lift back to the north through the next couple of days and provide us with another chance for some soaking rainfall. Showers back in the forecast tonight, mid-40s out there, winds otherwise calm. Details, though, on how much rain we could see through the week, that's in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Former President Donald Trump has taken the false claims that the 2020 presidential election was stolen to a new level. This weekend, he suggested that parts of the Constitution should be terminated as a result. CBS's Nicole D'Antonio is on Capitol Hill with more.
President Biden made sure to point out the theme of this year's holiday decorations at the White House during an event for the Kennedy Center honorees Sunday afternoon.
We the people, the first words of the Constitution, the beating heart of our democracy, the story of our nation that makes America, America.
The president's pointed remarks about the Constitution are in stark contrast to former President Trump's take on the founding document over the weekend, when he suggested on social media the possible termination of parts of the Constitution.
The Constitution is set for a reason, to protect the rights of every American. And so I certainly don't endorse that language or that sentiment.
The suggestion also included throwing out the results of the 2020 election or running the race again. But even his own vice president says claims of fraud are completely false.
Ultimately, there was no evidence of enough fraud to change the outcome in any of those states. But I think it set the table and set into motion what ultimately led to a tragic day on January 6th.
The former president's actions leading up to January 6th will be front and center when the congressional committee investigating that day issues its final report this month.
Donald Trump was a guy who just would not take no for an answer from the American people and set about to overthrow an election.
Trump's suggestion to overturn the 2020 results comes even as he's already declared his candidacy for the 2024 election.
I will support whoever the Republican nominee is.
Trump is also facing potential legal actions over January 6th and his possession of classified federal documents at his Florida home. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Trump is the only declared candidate for the GOP presidential nomination so far, but others are expected to run against him, including former Vice President Mike Pence and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. The efforts to discipline attorneys who helped former President Trump's legal bids to undermine the 2020 election took a major step forward today. Key disciplinary proceedings for Rudy Giuliani began in Washington, D.C. A hearing committee for the Board of Professional Responsibility is weighing whether the lawsuit against the former New York City mayor brought on behalf of Trump's 2020 campaign put him in violation of attorney ethics rules. The lawsuit sought to throw out hundreds of thousands of votes in Pennsylvania. Giuliani attorneys contend that he was relying on information provided by others helping Trump's legal team, and he had reason to believe it was true. The upcoming defense authorization bill could end the military COVID vaccine mandate. Republicans have been lobbying to kill the mandate, saying it has discouraged people from going into military academies and also remove people from service who did not follow the requirement. The White House says it still supports the mandate, but is aware of the need for bipartisan support for the annual spending bill in Congress. The bill is expected to be unveiled as soon as today and will likely be approved by Congress within the next 2 weeks. It remains to be seen what Congress does about service members who were disciplined or discouraged from service as a result of the mandate. The Supreme Court heard arguments in another clash between LGBTQ and business owners' rights. Today's case involves a Colorado website designer who says creating pages for same-sex weddings conflicts with her religious beliefs. As CBS's Nicole D'Antonio reports, the case is reminiscent of a narrow 2018 ruling in favor of a Colorado baker, where the court simultaneously acknowledged it was kicking the can down the road.
The Supreme Court took up another case pitting free speech against gay rights. At issue, whether artists and designers can be forced to state things at odds with their personal beliefs.
The state forces Ms. Smith to create speech, not simply sell it.
Colorado state law bars businesses from discriminating based on race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, and other grounds.
The company just cannot refuse to serve gay couples, as it seeks to do here, just as the Christmas store cannot announce no Jews allowed.
The case is a preemptive strike from Colorado graphic designer Lori Smith, who hasn't yet launched a wedding website business.
I know that the freedom I'm standing for is not just for me.
Her attorney argued that Smith is an artist and, unlike other vendors, is protected by free speech.
The person providing the chairs isn't providing speech.
Several justices engaged in hypotheticals.
How about people who don't believe in interracial marriage? Or about people who don't believe that disabled people should get married?
Suppose someone offers the service of writing customized wedding vows. Can they be forced to write vows or speeches that espouse things they loathe?
The now conservative majority court has been receptive to claims of religious freedom, but the panel in 2018 made a plea for civility that future cases like these would have to be resolved with tolerance on both sides. That warning came with a narrow ruling in favor of a Colorado baker who refused to make wedding cakes for same-sex couples.
Because the biblical teaching on marriage is pretty clear.
The justices in that case refrained from deciding on the larger First Amendment issue. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Washington.
This case comes as Congress nears passage of landmark bipartisan legislation that would protect federal recognition of same-sex marriage. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a legislative package of amendments expanding and toughening punishment for activities viewed as LGBTQ propaganda and what Russia calls non-traditional values. Russia's upper house of parliament approved the bill last Wednesday. The amendments include heavier penalties for anyone promoting non-traditional sexual relations and/or preferences, as well as pedophilia and gender transition. Under the new law, those will be banned across the internet, media, books, audiovisual services, cinema, and advertising. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, building a budget before the holidays can be critical to keep your finances healthy heading into the new year. Expert strategies to help keep your spending in line.
Plus, soggy conditions returning and looking to stick around for a while. The latest on the way after this.